And we are live. Hi, everybody. It's Amy. I'm the Reiki Nomad, and I'm here on a Facebook Live for Whole Self Unity. So we've been doing these quick little tips all of the first week of November, and I think we're going to continue with the series, maybe not on a daily basis, but on an every once in a while basis. We're going to kind of give them a rebirth, a new title. So quick tips for healing and dealing. And so if you're a practitioner, you have a tip and you want to share it, we'd love to hear from you. And obviously we'd love to just have everybody stop by. It's nice to have these little quick at your fingertips little activities or little sort of things that you can do to make yourself feel better when stress is high, or when you just need a little, cut yourself a little slack, bring in a little healing energy, settle things down. So today I am joined by Lee Shaw. She's a Reiki and energy teacher. She's based out of Chico, California. So, we see each other often. And hi, Lee. And today she's coming by to show us some of her really cool art that she uses kind of as a spiritual pursuit, or at least an energetic pursuit. It's a great way to get some release. And so I guess, Lee, my first question is, before we kind of get into the content of things, is so you're a Reiki and energy teacher. Why don't you tell me a little bit about what that means to you?
Well, I think I like working with people and moving energy for healing. I'm really helping people be aware of where the energy has gotten stuck in their body, in their thinking, in their kind of way of functioning. How do we move it? How can we move it? How can they help themselves? What can they learn? As well as having a practitioner is one thing working on you, but what can you do to help yourself? So
Right.
that's a big key for me, is how can I teach other people to do what I do and be aware that we all have talent to do this. We have the universal energy is available to all of us. We just have to tap into that, and with our consciousness, with our intent. And so that's kind of where I'm coming from, I guess. I like doing that. I like helping people build their self-esteem. I particularly like working with women. I've done a lot of that, helping them find their power.
Right.
And
That's
discover
awesome.
who they are authentically, and not who our culture has told them that they are.
Exactly. And I know, I don't know how much of this you want to bring forward, but I know some things about your like life before Reiki too. So, and some of that informs, I think, your practice and your approach and who you're here to help. So just kind of invite you to say what you want about your life experience that makes this population so attractive to you. Why do you want to work with women? Not saying that you don't want to work with other people, but I
But
know you have a passion for that. So I'm just trying to
I
reveal
do.
that.
I do. I think it goes way back to a sister-in-law who was an addict and had a lot of emotional issues. And when I went back to graduate school to get my master's in social work, I asked for a placement in a women's program. And as my first practicum, and I was placed in a domestic violence shelter, a 90-bed shelter in the inner city of Detroit.
Wow.
And so talk about baptism by fire. It was a huge learning experience for the little white girl from the suburbs. I was in my 40s, early 40s, so I was a little older.
At least you had that going for you.
Right.
Right. Wow. Okay.
So
So,
that's where I got started with this, and then it just kind of blossomed through women's movement and goddess work, and rising of the feminine, return of the feminine. And so it's just kind of grown and it's changed over time. And I have, from there, I did work with foster care with children and families, trying to keep children from being removed and also to return them home if they had been. I worked in corrections for a
Right.
short time with adolescent males, a population I never, ever thought I would. And I loved them. They
Yeah.
were kids who had mostly native kids, boys who had been, committed some pretty heinous crimes in some cases at young ages, but had a lot of addiction issues, and they were just locked up and thrown away
Yeah.
by the system. And so I just developed a lot of compassion for kids and people in different kinds of situations that don't have the power to help themselves. So our job was working with kids when they were leaving the secure facility, getting ready to re-enter society, and think after being incarcerated for several years. Um, and then they just turn, kids that were late teens and early 20s out into the world and expect them to function.
Right.
And wasn't going to happen very well without a lot of preparation and
Right. And support.
and support and family support and community support and working with the families and helping kids make decisions where they were going to go and finishing education, trying to get some kind of job skills or going to college and so big decisions.
Right. So really, as you move into this stage of your work, as you move into sort of energetic front and center, um, it's kind of the work you've been doing for a while,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Providing that support for people and trying to open doorways and show them, you may not have power over here, but here you do. So here, what can we do about to work with what you do have, the assets, the skills.
right.
Right.
And trying to
So,
is instead of just reacting to situations. How do you make
right,
better choices?
right. I think
For all of us.
some of us all need a little. There's usually a lesson that we all need to kind of partake in there. Like I can sit back. I don't need to react right now.
Right.
I can let things settle. So, I know one of the ways that I have learned to deal with a lot of emotional processing of wounds, of historical trauma, because you kind of mentioned some things about crisis and trauma, historical trauma, uh, is usually through an art outlet. So I was really excited when I started talking about these tips, and you were like, "Oh, I want to do some art." So I was like, "Yes." Um, so maybe let's talk about that a little bit. What'd you bring us? What do you want to tell us?
Well, it's funny because I think when I was young, I did a little bit of art, but I never felt like I had any talent in that area. I never really was encouraged to do it. And so I thought, oh, I don't know. But somewhere in the late 80s, I started I started by doodling on all the papers that I was playing around with. And then so one day I just bought a little sketchbook and I just started and I couldn't make a straight line. So I figured a ruler is a good one.
There you go.
And just started making lines and drawing patterns and having fun with it. I never had any idea when I started out that I was going to draw something in particular. It was always just like, okay, make a shape and go from there and see where it takes me. And so it was a very fun experience. And I think just building my confidence, my work doesn't have to look like anybody else's.
Heck no.
So, I kept thinking, I don't know how to draw faces. So I drew different faces.
Okay. Here,
And
you change the camera view so we can see. I actually want to see that last one you put up just a little while longer. Oh, I really like that. Yeah.
And it's just a simple little drawing, but it just started out with, I don't know if I drew the triangle. I don't even remember,
Right.
and it doesn't matter. I think it's just start doing something, make a shape, go from there. Let spirit move you in whatever direction that you like. I did a bunch of black and white for a while, and then I moved into doing color. And I use markers, but you can use colored pencils, crayons. There are lots of different mediums, and they don't have to be expensive. I now use more expensive markers, but I didn't. I mean, this is just drawing pen,
Right.
and that was a little better. Sharpies don't work very well because they kind of bleed into the paper. And this is like a little sketch pad, but I started out with typing paper,
Right.
printer paper, and I keep a bunch of that around now for when my grandchildren come that we'll sit and draw. They'll draw, or we'll all sit and draw something together. And it's fun, and it's nice just to have some simple paper that if you decide you don't want to keep it, it could just go in the recycling bin,
Right.
and or it spurs you on to do something else and to draw, something. Oh, keep going with that. That was kind of interesting. Or you may see something about yourself that you hadn't thought about, or some part of your healing. And my granddaughter has made an art journal during the COVID, and so she does some collage and some um, painting and using paper and all kinds of experimenting with a lot of different mediums that
Right.
that are just fun and to play around with. And
Right.
it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to put a lot of money into finding something that you enjoy. And even there are a lot of adult coloring books out now that's a good
Right.
for people to start. And I remember as a kid loving dark colors and using hard crayons, really hard to really
Right.
get those dark
Mhm.
purples and blues and things, and really liking that. And of course, they wore the crayons down faster, but I
And
loved
broke them. I always broke them when I did that.
that.
Yeah. What else have you got?
Well, I guess from there,
Right.
I decided I wanted to do faces. Well, I didn't know how to do faces.
Mm.
And so again, I didn't even know how to make anything freeform, or didn't think that I did. I've
Right.
gotten a little better. So I drew circles and I started making faces. And this one I called the ancestors, and I just drew a bunch of different faces, um,
Right.
connecting them all
Right.
together. And I did a lot of, I had sort of a whole alien series that I did for
Huh?
a while that I loved doing kind of crazy things. And so from there, I started elaborating more, not just doing faces, but doing, I could do like this one. This is called Goddess Rising. We were doing
Oh.
a lot of goddess work at that time. I realized in looking at it that her boobs are kind of down on her belly. So,
Well, some of us have that problem. So
but
what do you do?
my original was probably 8 by 11.
Mhm.
And then I made copies and shrunk them down so that this is a card. I made cards.
Okay.
I made candles. I just put them on the candles. These are a little bigger than the candles that you can get now, but I like to give them as gifts.
Yeah.
And I've sold some, and I've made other, just simple. This one I call Out of the Void, just coming out of the darkness, out of whatever.
Right. Right.
This one is spiraling into the center. And I like to do just patterns and
Right.
dots and dashes and, different colors. And so this one I did for for a candle too. I don't have any candles that it's on, but that's another one that I did that I used on candles.
I like that. You know what I really love is how your faces have come along. And yet when you first start talking about it, you said, "Oh, I don't know how to make a face," that a lot of what we would consider art, and it doesn't really matter what modality, most of it's just practice,
Right.
and getting freed up and getting in that flow of just sort of letting stuff happen. I know some of the things that my mom taught me really young is like, "Oh, well, I meant to do that." kind of stuff, or at least coming into peace when you did misstep, or it didn't go whether you hoped or had planned or envisioned, and that sometimes you end up with a better product because of that.
Because I found if I made what I thought was a mistake,
Right.
just incorporate it somehow into the design,
Right.
and just it's not a mistake. It's just
Right.
it just changes it a little bit.
And when you do that, I think it's kind of it becomes like an exercise, especially for those of us who have kind of like an inner critic who's kind of wanting to be right, or wanting to be perfect, or wanting to be just so.
Right.
That you can get out a piece of paper and just play.
Right.
Yeah.
Just draw anything. This was one that I did. I don't know if we can see that, but it's and I just called it cutting away the layers, kind of doing your own profile, and just played with it. And because that's what we do, we peel away the layers of whatever trauma we've experienced, or that we're caring for the family or the lineage, and that we just keep working at that. So it can be very, very spiritual. It can also be very very healing or revealing too sometimes, that sometimes you just draw and then you step back and look at something. It's like, oh, that's different. That's not what I thought it was going to be.
It's not what I thought it was at all.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. For a while, I was doing profiles. I decided maybe I could do profiles. So I did a couple of profiles, and then I just gave her a lot of hair with all kinds of shapes and colors, but you could do branches or leaves, or so many things that you could incorporate into anything like this. So that's another. I have a couple of others. This one is on leather.
Oh, nice.
And
how do you do that on leather?
I had I think I'd picked up an old leather skirt at Goodwill, and I cut it up and made different things. And so I think this will go on a bag or something. And so just really experimenting with eye shapes and nose shapes, and how mouths are, and they don't necessarily have to be pretty. They don't have to be perfect in any way. You can get inspired by a lot of different things. This one is kind of a different one. I went to an art show where I saw some ceramic pots that this woman had made that were just beautiful, with these long, elongated neck-like funnels into the pots. So I just came home and I just took that idea and used it for faces again. And so that one was a little bit different.
Cool.
I also have a couple of things that I think are kind of fun, that are simple for people, like this one. This was something one of my children did in elementary school. Glued together some boards and then painted on it.
Nice.
And, just a fun little kid thing, but adults can do this kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And my granddaughter, who's 14, made this for me after my little Gracie passed away at 17 in May. It's just a piece of wood.
Yeah.
She put some paper on it. She glued a little clothespin, and then she picture of Gracie and I could use it as a message board or whatever. But sometimes whatever you have around, I mean, some of my early faces, well, I still do that. I'll use a plate
Right.
or a glass or a cup or something that has another shape
Right.
that it can create some really interesting, different kinds of things.
Yeah, it's not about going out to Michael's and buying the store so you have all the right stuff around, right? It's
Exactly.
about just
Exactly.
grab what's handy. And then I love how you talk about doing this with your granddaughters, and you even showed doing it with your daughters too. Do you guys get to chat and sort of decompress together when you work together like that?
Right, right.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's amazing what things will come out
right.
when you're doing something like that. One of the one of the interesting things that I have not done with them that I was thinking about today, I did in an art therapy class, was a shared drawing with someone,
Oh,
which is an interesting thing to do with a partner, a
right,
child, a friend. And you do it in silence. You decide who's going to start first, and somebody draws whatever they want for as long as they want, and then they let the next person draw, and you keep working on it till you kind of nod and through eye contact mainly decide, okay, it's finished, and then talk about what you've drawn together. and
right,
and that could be great with a child, to have some conversations about things and the colors and that they've used, or so that can be a kind of a fun, that can be therapeutic or it can just be fun.
right.
Just
It
do
can
it,
just be fun, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's both. And then I also know there's a lot of people with kids in school online. So you've kind of got parents trying to work from home and kids in school online, working parallel to one another, but not really engaging with each other. And these might be some ways to kind of reconnect.
Right,
If you've had that situation, spending plenty of time with each other, but maybe you just need something to do together,
right, right.
you
And
know.
it's a simple thing because it doesn't take a lot of material. You don't have to go out and buy a bunch of stuff. And if you've got paper and some crayons or some pencils or whatever and markers, you can just create a masterpiece together.
Right.
Put it on the
Put
refrigerator.
it on the refrigerator.
And one of the things that I started doing, because I have some macular degeneration particularly in my right eye. And so all of my lines are a little squiggly now because of that. So I
Right.
started doing some collage. I saved pictures, particularly of women, for a long time. And I just started doing some collage
Oh, okay.
that you can just find pictures in, I mean, that's one way. Magazines were harder to come by now that I know the library gives away some magazines from time to time, newspapers, maps, old telephone books, that you can
Right.
use in making collage, fabric, little pieces of fabric. You can do some really, really creative kinds of things. This is a bigger one. I don't know if we can see this one very well, but I started collecting pictures of Muslim women uh,
Right.
a while back, and just started. It's kind of not totally staying together,
I see. Yeah.
but just play. Just it's a work in progress.
Right.
A work in
Right.
progress.
Well, those are some powerful images in there. I like how you brought them all together.
This one is I've had for a long time. There's one woman you can see her eyes. The rest you cannot.
Right.
It was on a magazine that I found a long time ago, and I just kept them because I thought, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but it's fun to. That's a fun thing to do, and I took a collage class through Ollie, but I found that I find for me when I'm doing some things that I want to have it meaningful. It
Right.
can be just fun. It can be just fun.
Yes.
Putting colors together, patterns together, creating anything. For me, I like to do something that sort of has a message.
Right.
Um, you know, but that's just me. But that doesn't mean that everything you have to do has to be serious or, uh,
No, and I think everybody has to find their own approach to that. Absolutely.
right.
I know that when I was in some of my darkest places where I was doing the most healing, I made all kinds of art that was not for anybody else's eyes but mine.
Yeah.
Burned it. That stuff was not pretty, and that's okay. But then through that process, I learned to kind of branch out into some other things. And I think what art allows you to do, um, it's just this process that we've been talking about of just kind of getting in that flow, letting the thought or the emotion or the point, the feeling to just sort of play over you. And sometimes when you look at it later, just like we talked about, you get a insight into where you were,
Right.
And it gives you expression, so you don't have to stay in that place.
Right.
Um,
And sometimes it's good to keep them and look through them, and other times it's perfect to burn them or
right.
get rid of them, let go of that energy from that particular time to free yourself up. And
Right.
yeah.
Move on. Yeah. So very cool. Thanks for coming by today, Lee, and sharing all your beautiful artwork. I'm very fortunate to have one of your candles. I'm grateful for that. I love it. And yeah, it's just good to kind of talk about some of these things with you.
It is, because it's a simple thing that can be very therapeutic just in releasing tension.
Right.
People are bored, people are antsy, people are anxious. And so to sit down and just play
Right.
with shapes and images and colors,
Just play.
can be just a lot of fun. So that's kind of
Absolutely. So I think I'm breaking up a little bit. I don't know if it's you or me. Maybe it's both of us. But I think it's probably time to sign off. That's a little longer than we wanted, but that's all good. Let's see. I was going to say, you asked that people get in touch with you by email if they're looking to talk about coming in to see you, whether it's virtually or physically in Chico. So that email, leeshaw13@yahoo.com. Is that right?
yes.
Okay.
And I'm seeing people virtually right now, and as things open up, we'll be able to do some more together kinds of work, one-on-one. But that may be a while.
Right.
We'll see.
Right.
That I am available to work. And
well, we will but see. Exactly. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this live stream. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and experience with us. And I hope whoever needed to hear that hears and try some of those techniques.
Thanks. I hope so too. All righty.
All right.
Thanks so much.
We'll see you later.